Okay, so I'm here with Jason from SendBird. Jason, welcome, and thanks for coming on my show and keeping me company in my confinement here in New Zealand.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to hear that you'll be out here soon. So.
Yeah, a couple more days, and I join the real world again. But you're one of the developer advocates at SendBird. Why don't we start just by touching a little bit exactly on what SendBird does and how developers can leverage some of its services.
Yeah, no, totally. So in a nutshell, SendBird is the easiest way to add chat, voice, and video services to an existing application, whether it's iOS, Android, web, platform, even for Unity, you can add in our chat services there. We are used on, I think, like thousands of different applications, or thousands of companies use SendBird already, from startups to enterprise companies like Yahoo, Reddit, Delivery Hero. So a lot of US and a lot of international companies use us. And the reason they use SendBird is because we've got this really fast, highly scalable and performant backend that's also secure, right? We're GDPR, HIPAA compliant. And we allow our users, the company clients, to be able to quickly add in the services to their app and customize it. You know, we've got kind of this white label system that allows you to customize almost every element that you would want, including the UI kit that makes it faster to implement this sort of stuff. So again, you know, we got three main products: chat, video, and voice. And then we have a service called Desk, which is kind of an expanded feature set for chat if you're using chat for support services, right? So if you're creating your own online chat support system, Desk has everything pre-built on top of chat to give you those options. So that's SendBird in a nutshell. And yeah, so to kind of speak to, I think, an earlier question you had about like just making things easier for folks and that whole like technology direction. You know, companies like SendBird create these SDKs so that other developers don't have to spend a ton of time building all this stuff from the ground up themselves, right? They can just get this super feature-rich set out the gate.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. One of the challenges, I think, when trying to talk to developers along this, and I know this from experience because you know, I built an application. I built my own. We built our own communication system. It was a terrible idea, but we did. But you know, you actually mentioned a lot of like large companies, and one of the reasons why I know for me why I kind of was hesitant to use some of these APIs out there was because, you know, they feel like it's something that's for small companies and it's not scalable. You know, so how, like, when you build something, obviously you have scale in mind. You always want to dream big, and so, you know, how does it work with SendBird in terms of like doing these large scales? You mentioned Reddit. I mean, I can imagine that that's an absolutely huge kind of demand on there. How does these APIs work and manage that level of scale?
Right. So, you know, that speaks to, you know, the entire platform that's built behind the scenes, right? So we build on top of AWS, and I think we have centers in 8 different regions. It's a huge infrastructure backend that's able to support, I think we have like 100 million active users on chat that are concurrently working. So the system is built for scale, right? Like the company started off communicating and targeting with enterprise level companies. So very early on, the company had designed and built for this sort of fast and high performant backend. But yeah, you're right. Like if you had to build like your own sort of AWS stack on your own, that's a lot of work just in terms of infrastructure setup, right? And all the DevOps. It's going with, you know, a platform, you know, like ours is going to make your life much easier when implementing this sort of technology.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I've learned the hard way. There was a great article actually on the SendBird blog, which everyone should check out, which is building from scratch doesn't make you a better hacker, it makes you a slower one. And I could certainly relate to that because, you know, it's part of my nature and a lot of developers and engineers' natures. We want to pull stuff apart. We want to kind of experiment and see how it works. but often to our own detriment and at the cost. You know,
I mean,
is there?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, that exercise is still worth it, right? Because, right, I mean, one, as us developers, right, like we want to tinker with everything into some degree. And, I think it's good for us to get that out, try it out, and then experience, like, wow, that was actually very painful. Then it kind of gives you a whole new appreciation for, these well-supported, libraries.
Yeah, and and sometimes when you want to implement something, like I'll use the example, of myself, is that we wanted to have chat features in the application, so we built this chat feature. But you're missing actually half the piece. And one of the coolest things when I played with SendBird just then is you've got really detailed analytics features where you can kind of deep dive into behind what's going on. Where so you can build your own communication system, but then layering on top of that your analytics, layering on top of that a dashboard where you can see what's going on, layering on top of that your security controls and encryption and your compliance with HIPAA. It's it really, is there a scenario where it does make sense to build your own communication system, in your opinion? Is there a scenario where maybe you've started off with SendBird and the application has reached a level of scale, or maybe it's at such a small level of scale where it doesn't make sense to use SendBird and it makes sense to build your own? Is there is there a situation where that makes sense?
Yeah, no, I think there is. I mean, it all depends on, what you're trying to build, right? What your product or what your app is, and then where you kind of are in your journey, right? So, if you're like very early on and you're wanting, so say you're trying to build your app is communications based, right? In which case, like, okay, if that's your core product, then it's, you can get an MVP very quickly by using SendBird or, some other SDK to quickly build something. But at some point, you're probably going to end up wanting to build your own system if that's your core product, right? So in that particular scenario, then obviously, you kind of want to start tinkering with that technology on your own. But if you want to get an MVP out, just use something like SendBird out the gate will get you to probably the more interesting parts much quicker, right? And again, it's like, I imagine if somebody wants to create their own kind of communications app, you're going to want to do something really outstanding on top of the general communications layer, right? So if that is, if that's your secret sauce, then just focus on that. Then use SendBird to, get your core stack up and running, and then build, your magic stuff on top. That really makes more sense probably for more applications than not. But again, that earlier scenario, then it would be like, okay, well, if that's your thing, do that. So yeah, off the top of my head, I would say that only makes sense. Otherwise, if you're a developer just tinkering with stuff, then then of course that would be the route to go.
No, that makes a total sense. And this is one of the advantages of the change in architecture that we have at the moment, where we can use these APKs and microservices heavily, and it allows us to focus really on the core aspect of our product. It's what makes a good social networking site is not how you send messages, it's your social networking algorithms or how you do your niche area well. And so it allows you to do that. But it also makes sense that if your core aspect is going to be messaging, then maybe you want to do that yourself. But there has to be something unique there for the investment to make sense. There has to be something innovative there.
Yeah, no, totally.
And kind of speaking of innovative, you guys this year, you're just telling me, have now also entered into the market of video calling and voice calling. How did that kind of come about? And is that kind of an attempt to really centralize all developers' needs? And what advantages does that kind of have in using the SendBird platform?
Okay. Well, I mean, okay. So in transparency, in all honesty, so I'm new to SendBird. So I've been brought up to speed on chat, but not so much on voice call yet.
Well, I'm going to ask you some difficult questions then.
So, no, I mean, these are things I need to know eventually, right? So So I haven't had a chance myself to really, deep dive into our own video services. But, I mean, you could easily speculate, right? When you're in, one communications channel, you naturally expand into others, right? So voice and video just naturally, makes sense as a progression beyond chat.
Yeah, no, totally. And, like one of the cool, some of the most exciting technology out there is coming into this peer-to-peer stuff, which SendBird is totally, innovating at the forefront with technologies like WebRTC, which really is a game changer. I mean, it's getting in there its maturity level, but it's really allowing for this huge scale, and that's, I think, one of the core aspects that is running on with SendBird, is that it's an awesome platform to do with scale in mind because of the back end that's been built from it. It's hard to ignore the current situation with COVID. It's very hard for me to ignore it. being that I'm stuck in a hotel for 2 weeks. What's been some of the trends that you guys have seen at SendBird? Has there been an increase in kind of traffic, and has it changed anything in how SendBird and the technology is moving forward?
I believe it has, but again, because I came on board recently after like all this had started, right? So I wasn't with SendBird before, so I wasn't able to see that transition. Though, I've got some sense that, certain numbers have gone up, obviously, like usage. And as we know, like we're all very dependent on, these sorts of communications now. So, overall, lots of usage, lots of, different companies coming out with new features and other related tech, like online conferences. I haven't seen so many variations of online conferences before. And, it could be I just wasn't aware of it, but it's interesting to see the breadth of various technologies that different companies have chosen to go with to do the outreach.
Has there been any online conferences that you've been to that have really nailed it for you? I've been to a few. I haven't really. There's one that I can think of that really nailed the online. Is there any that stood out for you in this time that you've experienced?
Bits and pieces of different conferences, right? Like, it's probably like everybody else. I haven't gone to an online conference where I was like, wow, you know what? I want to do this forever and never go back to person conferences, right? It's just, I have a hard time seeing that happen. But, there are certain things that different companies have done that's been interesting. There's this one that had, so one of them, Hopin, right, does this, and a lot of other similar ones will do this sort of speed dating roulette one-on-one networking thing. And I get it, right? It's like, as the feature says, it's pretty straightforward. But some other newer conference ones, I think like AirMeet and I forget the name of the other one, but it actually offers like a conference room visual, and then you can jump into a seat, and you basically go into a room like this with just a small number of folks. And I thought that was a great kind of a great iteration, because you can talk to maybe 5-6 people inside one Zoom space before there's just too many people, right? So when you confine it to that number, it's good. And it's also less awkward for, I think, most folks, rather than having to do like a quick one-on-one 6 times straight where you're kind of repeating yourself, but 2, it's we're in video, it's a little harder to get rolling with a new person. But if you have 1 or 2 other people that may be more kind of outgoing, it kind of brings the whole group together, right? So I thought that was really well done. I was over at Data Science Go, did their virtual conference earlier in the year, and I thought their backstage setup was very good, right? There was quite a few handoffs. They did a bunch of technical checks. So that was really well put together in the back, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, I like what you say too, is that I haven't been to a virtual conference yet where this is like, this is what I want to do. And I think one of the aspects is it is a communication aspect of the conferences, is that we haven't nailed that chance encounter. We haven't nailed bumping into someone, feeling like you're sitting with people in a
Mhm.
in a room is it's been interesting. Went to one conference which switched. It was about 2 weeks before it was canceled. It switched to online, which I thought was cool. It's Code. It was in Australia, and well, it was anywhere. It was virtual in the end, but it was kind of like a game, and you could walk around and you could see other people, and you could kind of chat and talk to people and jump into a room and message them. It still didn't have that natural feeling about it, but it was kind of like, okay, at least it's not a whole bunch of just Zoom calls that where you're hesitant to jump in.
I kind of remember like an MMO, right? Like a World of Warcraft, where like I'm just gonna walk around and this game is the conference space. That's how I mentally envisioned what you just said.
That's exactly what I mean. It didn't go so far as you could choose a monster and attack people, but I mean, hey, maybe that's it. Maybe that's how you start a conversation in the digital conference world, is that you initiate a battle.
That would be really interesting. I would really love to see it like a gaming conference do it that way. That would be really worth checking out, I think.
I feel like we just nailed the online gaming conferences together. We should. I think let's let's build an MVP. Let's get this done. I know a great chat service API that we can use to implement it.
For the communications platform, I'm thinking maybe SendBird could cover our chat and voice services at least.
Or we could build our own.
Yes, which would probably take us the next a couple years at least to get rolling. Yeah, I was surprised and excited to learn yesterday that we have more than 100 developers on staff that focus on building and maintaining our product. And so, coming from some other startups, I was like 100 developers. That's a lot of engineering firepower.
I think it totally is. I mean, I'm a security fanatic. That's what I am passionate about. Is security. Now it comes from the fact that I look back on my startups and go, holy crap, we were very hackable. But I think what you said there holds a lot of weight. You got 100 developers maintaining a service that when you're a developer, you think that, communications, chat, I could build that in a weekend. Well, maybe you could do something in a weekend. Like for sure, you can do something in a weekend. But when you actually start to get into it, and it's the security of it, making sure the data is, fully encrypted at rest and transit, making sure that the databases are tightly locked, that the messages are going to the right place. All these little things, which at scale are hugely important, and 100 developer team to maintain one aspect. Essentially, for what you're able to do in this new microservice environment is be able to employ 100 developers for the cost of probably probably next to nothing when you get to use that service. And I think that's it makes it more powerful for the hackers like me who could never build something to that scale, be able to.
Right. Yeah. And again, that speaks back to what you mentioned earlier about being able to leverage a whole specialized team to do things for you, right? Because when you got to build it yourself, right, it becomes this giant rabbit hole of stuff, right? And why reinvent the wheel when another team has already gone through the rabbit hole, come out the other end, go like, here, I've got this magic box, it's ready to go. You just build on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And and just in the final words, I think it's what you're saying is focus on what you want to do best in an application, and flog off the rest to people that live for that, that live for that thing. Now, Jason, I know we had a hard deadline at 12:30. I think that's the time now, is it not?
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah. Well, look, I appreciate so much you coming on and keeping me company and chatting. It's been super interesting for me, and I hope hopefully we can encourage some people to maybe reconsider building a communication platform.
That would be great. Yeah, they can reach out to us anytime if they want help with that stuff. So yeah, it's great talking with you, Mackenzie. Looking forward to hearing and possibly seeing some photos of you once you leave your hotel prison. Would be awesome.
I'll get you a freedom selfie. And one last thing, Jason, how can people connect with you on social media if they want to reach out?
So I'm on LinkedIn heavily and also on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Jalakoo, Jalakoo, and then LinkedIn is just Jason-Koo-USA for my LinkedIn profile. So
cool.
Otherwise, to send me an email at jason.koo@sendbird.com.
All right, Jason. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. And hopefully we can have a chat again sometime soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. All right.
Awesome.
Have a good day.